Hey everyone, it's Dominic Badiato with Waxing Poetically. For those who did not listen to the intro of my previous podcast, this is a podcast about headlines, misleading headlines, fake news, clickbait, just basically anything the media does to fear you into thinking something's wrong. And this is actually my first time doing a podcast, so please bear with me. I promise it will get better. I'm actually doing it with AirPods. And then also we'll go over some of the political spectrum. I consider myself a libertarian, even though I sit a little bit more on the right side, but I think the left says a lot of stupid stuff. I think the right says a lot of stupid stuff. And it really just comes down to making your own decisions and common sense. I don't think you have to defend one to the death, which sometimes people do, and it can be quite annoying, in my opinion. So, some of the people I think who are really good and who I tend to agree with are people like Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro, for instance. So, you can kind of get a flavor of who I am. So, the purpose of this podcast is actually to kind of go over, like I mentioned, some of the headlines, whether they're misleading, they're clickbait, just completely false, or they're just trying to incite fear. So I'm going to take the headlines from this week that I actually gathered from Twitter. If you want, you can follow me on Twitter at Waxing Poetic Pod. That's Waxing Poet Pod, sorry. And feel free to follow more of my news stories and commentary there. So with that said, we're going to kick it off. And once again, I'm sorry it's my first podcast, and I promise it will get better. So on May 26th, CNN Politics, the headline is, "Here's the real reason Donald Trump is attacking mail-in ballots." Analysis by CNN's Chris Cillizza. So if you actually read the article, and you can feel free to Google it, it's saying that Trump doesn't want mail-in ballots because more people are willing to vote through mail-in as opposed to going in person, which I don't disagree with that. This is where the politics is going to be, and I'm in the middle. Everybody says mail-in ballots. There's no fake mail-in ballots. They did a study out of a billion of them. Only 31 were misleading or false, which statistically that's like impossible. Like there's no way. It would have to be more than 31. So kind of the rules and regulations behind what they determine is false or not. Like there was a news story where this lady sent in 82 mail-in ballots in California. So right there is already more than 31 out of a billion. Just seems statistically impossible to me. I do think, however, mail-in ballots aren't the worst thing in the world. I know the right is completely blowing this out of proportion, and the left is completely in favor of it. And I don't know if it's just because they just want to oppose the right, or because they truly believe that they could actually get more votes. That has yet to be seen. I live in California, and I can tell you in California for the presidential race, if I wanted to vote Republican, my vote does not matter. Why? Because of the electoral college system. We don't have a split system in California where even I think it's usually around 40%, 30 to 40% of the votes are usually Republican, and California being the highest state, I believe, for electoral votes. My vote means nothing. It's never meant anything. Even for really the governor's race and popular vote, because we're just a heavily Democratic state. So I really think they need to fix the electoral college, at least kind of what they do with primaries, and they can get partial votes. So, you know, there's like just like they do for delegates, that they do something for the electoral college. It's a completely different topic that I can go on forever with. But mail-in ballots, CNN's not technically wrong on this. I do think you're going to get more people probably voting, and they're probably going to be voting left. However, I'm a big believer of you should have a voter ID system, which I know the left just does not want, because you should be here legally, and two, you should be able to prove who you are, that you're not dead, you're not somebody else, you're not, casting for somebody else, you're not voting multiple times, and mail-in ballots definitely don't have to do that. You already don't have to do that when you go in person. So, voter ID, I really think is something that they need to do, and this is just kind of taking it a step further from that. In a perfect world in the future, I'm sure we'll get to it at some point, that we'll get online voting of some sort. I know it's not secure and hacking and everything, but really, if you actually want to get more people to vote, kind of like what they did with the census this year, that's the best way of doing it. So probably in our future, the next 10 or 20 years, I wouldn't be surprised if that actually happened. So please let me know your thoughts on that. Either comment on the podcast on my Twitter page, or leave a review. Let me know what you think. I'm also going to try to post this to YouTube also, so you can leave comments there as well. So the next headline is actually from the Chicago Tribune. A coronavirus mutation has emerged, more contagious than the original study says. So if you actually look at it from the Chicago Tribune, they're saying that the coronavirus is mutated, which we all know viruses mutate. It was with 8 different mutations, and now it's about 11, but all of them are actually pretty mild, and they're worried that, oh, it's to prevent the vaccine and blah blah blah, which is not true. Because when they do vaccines, and if you know anything about immunology, which by the way I did not go over actually some of my background, you're like, why the hell should I even listen to this guy? Really quick, I do data analytics for a living. I'm very passionate about politics. I have certificates, many certificates in epidemiology, virology, and immunology. I've also was a former law enforcement for a couple years, and I went to school, got a master's certificate. Uh, yeah, just use common sense type of guy. So anyway, that's kind of my credentials. You kind of know who I am. Like I said, I sit in the middle. So anyways, back to the stories. Told you, new to this. Uh, so, yes, the coronavirus is mutating. No, it will not cause issues with the vaccine because in immunology, they actually already try to predict various strains and mutations. So they test them in the lab ahead of time. They actually kind of pre-mutate it, and that's actually what Wuhan University was supposed to be doing. Is they can detect strains and variants of something before they actually happen. This is actually quite common with the common flu. That's why they kind of predict what the different strains are going to be. With the flu, there's the A and B, and how successful it's going to be. So they actually try to mutate it out ahead of time in the lab, and then they try to predict what they think that flu strain is going to be. That's why the vaccine isn't always 100% effective, and this last year is like only 56% effective. I actually got the flu twice. I actually did antibody tests, and it said it came back negative, but we all know those aren't 100%, so I will probably do it again at some point. If it's cheap or doesn't cost me any money. So, Chicago Tribune, they're trying to lead with a mutant coronavirus has emerged, even more contagious than the original. No, it's not more contagious. They're just lying, and they're just trying to scare people. If you actually read the article, it doesn't even say anything about that. It's just saying it's mutated and the vaccine might not work. So, once again, false, misleading headline to just trying to sell fear because the media just wants to sell fear during this pandemic, and it just drives me absolutely crazy. Then, funny enough, you go to the next story from the New York Post. This is published on May 5th. I believe it was the same day that the other one was. Yes, this is the same day that the other one is published. New coronavirus mutation mirrors changes of weakening 2003 SARS virus. And it's just like, wait a minute. These two just completely contradict each other. One says we're mutating and we're all going to die, basically. And the other one says, oh, these mutations are weakening. So, for those of you who don't know, the SARS virus, or SARS-CoV-1, which is the original SARS virus, this is SARS-CoV-2. It's like a cousin of it. I believe it's like 80 to 90% DNA similarities. That's also why they were able to do vaccine and antibody treatment so quickly, is because they had the vaccine already from the SARS virus, which they did not complete. It was actually frozen, but they took that out and they helped. They used that to help kind of in the current stage today. If they would have actually finished that vaccine, we probably would be in a much better situation today. But as Bernie Sanders says, hindsight is 2020. So if you actually read the article, "New coronavirus mutation mirrors changes of weakening 2003 SARS virus," they're actually correct. So for those who don't know, the 2003 SARS virus actually mutated itself to death. Typically with mutations, they get weaker, not stronger. And this, if you look at the history of epidemiology and all the different strains of viruses over the years, from Spanish flu, MERS, SARS, you name it, H1N1, they tend to mutate itself to death. And this is showing similarities to the 2003 SARS virus. So for those who have Twitter, follow Ethical Skeptic. He does really good comparisons of SARS versus coronavirus, so SARS-CoV-1 versus SARS-CoV-2, and you can kind of see the trends follow almost identical with them. So it looks like it is tapering down, and it is showing some signs of weakening, even though the media will never tell you besides this New York Post article. So good for the New York Post for actually posting this, but of course, I guarantee you, CNN, you haven't seen it on CNN, Washington Post, MSNBC, or anything. It's just complete propaganda. Even Fox News does it too, so because they want to sell fear. Fear is what drives views and gets people to watch. Because when you don't know something, you watch it to try to know something, but they're actually just continue to entice fear in your actual brain chemistry. And so for the last article that we're going to go over this week, it's by Sky News, and this one really grinds my gears. Just blatant false lie that it just, oh god, you have no idea. I already got goosebumps even thinking about it. So this is just a lie, completely misleading. Most people, especially if you saw this on Twitter, it's just either it's clickbait and they click it and they realize it's false, or they just look at the title of it and they just freak out and they comment, "Oh my god, we're all gonna die." If you look at some of the Twitter comments, it's just ridiculous. Obviously, they didn't read the article, or they just retweet it without even looking at it themselves, and it just continues to spread the fear, and it just really drives me crazy. So the Sky News article is from May 24th is coronavirus. Study suggests COVID-19, keyword COVID-19, immunity could last just 6 months. So the University of Amsterdam did a study. I'm going to read it to you, and you're going to see why it's going to drive me crazy. Over 35 years, University of Amsterdam scientists regularly tested 10 men for 4 types of coronavirus, which cause the common cold. For those who don't know, there's a rhinovirus and a coronavirus for the common cold. These have been around for decades. This is not new. This is not the same coronavirus. It is completely different. This is the common cold. And they're literally comparing it to the common cold. So I'm going to read it again. Scientists regularly tested 10 men for 4 types of coronavirus, which cause the common cold. Most participants aged between 27 and 66 caught the viruses again within 3 years. So you already know, because COVID-19 didn't even last 3 years ago, or was here 3 years ago. You already know it's completely, like, what are they talking about? With the study concluding, with coronavirus, protective immunity is short lasting. We saw frequent reinfection after 12 months post infection and substantially reduction of antibody levels as soon as 6 months post infection. So that's where they get the 6 months from. And then they're saying, we're acknowledging the limitations of the study. In conclusion, cast doubt of the so-called immunity passports, and they didn't even do the proper punctuation. But they're saying immunity passports won't work because antibody levels might only last 6 months. But they're talking about the common cold. We all know that the common cold antibodies don't last that long. That's why you get sick multiple times a year. But the headline from Sky News, it has nothing, no mention of COVID in the whole thing because it's the common cold coronavirus. The headline, I'm going to read it again. So nothing about the common cold. Once again, I told you, people will just read the headline, they will just share this crap, and it just drives me crazy. Coronavirus. Study suggests COVID-19 immunity can last just 6 months. That is a complete and utter lie. If I could sue Sky News, I would, because it's just propaganda, spreading fear. I can't tell you how many retweets of this stupid thing get. This already has 73 retweets, and that's just like, people are just spreading fear, man. It's Sky News. It's a reputable news source. So that just really grinds my gears, and crap like this just really needs to stop. And it's just a prime example of either misleading, spreading fear, or just clickbait information. And that's the whole point of this podcast. I hope you get a little bit of a flavor of what's going on and why I'm doing this and why I'm passionate about it. You can probably tell in my voice. So, I actually do have one more. This I did not save the best for last. So this one was from Global Health Strategies. They're a very popular verified account on Twitter, and they kind of give news headlines. And this was on May 22nd. It says, hydroxychloroquine linked to increased risk of deaths, COVID-19 patients, new study finds. So hydroxychloroquine has a whole bunch of positive news and negative news, none of which are really substantiated. So we all know that it has antiviral properties because it's a malaria drug. And we all know that it can open up the cell, which is why with zinc it can provide some benefits. And Chinese studies have shown it provided benefits both prophylactically and during the early signs of symptoms. Same with India, same with France. So the United States, for whatever reason, maybe because Trump endorsed it, CNN's just doing everything in their freaking power, man, to just poo-poo this drug. And yes, we need more trials. Yes, more clinical trials. But the fact that the studies that they put out are just completely misleading. So everybody will recognize the VA study, and it was given to VA patients, and I think 6 or 9 VA patients died when taking hydroxychloroquine. But these were already severely ill patients. They were already so far along in the life cycle. I believe they were already on the ventilators when they were given hydroxychloroquine and they died. And they're saying, "Oh, hydroxychloroquine killed them," and it's just a complete lie. It's just they probably would have died anyways. It had no effect. we all know it's probably best to give it early if it's going to work at all. It's to give it early or prophylactically. And they're saying, oh, it can cause heart issues. You can look at every rheumatoid arthritis doctor, heart doctor out there, and they all say that they've been giving it for years to thousands of people with zero side effects. There's always side effects with drugs, but now all of a sudden, all these heart issues, coming out of left and right, and it's, I'm sure it can happen. I'm sure it does happen, but the news and CNN is going to pick that one person and they're going to just run with it. And they'll find any goddamn doctor they can to back up their study. It'll be a freaking dermatologist, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, hydroxychloroquine's gonna kill you," and it's just like you're a fucking dermatologist. Like, calm down. Or you get some PhD who has a PhD in freaking geology or something. And it's just like, stop it. Just that crap just needs to stop. So in this latest study that they did, another one where increased risks of death, it's the same thing. They were already, even CNN put in their article, severely ill. Like, we all know you can't just, I can give him Tylenol and then I'm going to say Tylenol will kill him. No, it's not how it works. So it just really drives me crazy that they do this crap. Can we just get a freaking proper study, give it to early, different age groups, with zinc, without zinc, with azithromycin, which is a Z-Pack? Just do the different variations. I don't know why it takes freaking 6 months to do a study. Do it for a month, test it on new patients, various age groups that meet the criteria. What are the results? I mean, maybe a month or two it takes, but they're just taking forever, and I just don't understand why it takes so long to actually do this. So, anyways, you guys get a flavor of this podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm gonna probably try to do this weekly. If I get some traction, I'll probably do it daily because on Twitter you can see I retweet stuff and I leave comments because stuff just really pisses me off. And like I said, I sit in the middle. If Trump says something stupid, I'm gonna call him out. Sometimes he just picks unnecessary battles, and it just drives me crazy too. Or sometimes the left are just blame him for everything. It's just like, come on, can't we just use common sense and just make our own opinions for something? We don't have to agree with everything Trump says. You don't have to agree with everything the left says. Why can't you just have your own opinions? And that's really where I stand, and I stand for common sense, or at least what I think is common sense. It's okay for you to disagree with me. It's okay for me to disagree with you. That's the beauty of America. That's the beauty of freedom of speech. So please subscribe to the podcast if you haven't. I'm using Anchor right now, and it should be populating to Spotify, Google, hopefully Apple. I'm going to try to upload it to YouTube. And please follow me on Twitter at Waxing Poet. Sorry, I can never get it right. At Waxing Poet Pod. So WAXINGPOETPOD. Waxing Poet Pod on Twitter. And you're going to see a lot more daily cases. Please, daily stories. Please feel free to interact with me. Have questions, comments. You disagree with me, let me know. Happy to talk about it. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Please share it. Please subscribe. And if this gets more traction, I'll promise I'll do better. I'll get better equipment. Like I said, I'm doing this with my AirPods. But I really appreciate everybody's time, and I will talk to you later. Everybody have a good day.